Hey everyone, welcome to the Tribe Podcast. Hey, today I've got Seth with me, and Seth and I really want to talk about his experience with spirituality and psychedelics. Before we start, I would like to be very clear that this is informational. We just want to talk about his experience and how he has experienced it himself, what it has done to him, and yeah. So, Seth, can you tell people listening how we met?
Oh, that's it's exciting.
It's a
We
bit,
met,
a bit of a weird one, isn't it?
yeah, we met on a tour in Peru. We met in the middle of the desert at a oasis.
Yeah.
We met it was a party hostel, right? Wild Rover. I
Oh,
remember the first time Wild Rover, right? The first time I saw you, I think you were on standing on the bar table.
oh God. I didn't even remember that. Like before we started talking, I was thinking, okay, Seth and I, what was the first time? And I remembered that we were out on the beach and we did the wrestling part and we did the walk. I forgot about Wild Rover.
Hey, that's my first memory of you. We were at the bar. We briefly like noticed each other, but I remember noticing you, and like you were the most noticeable person in the room. Like
Uh,
I don't know what it was like. You're loud and like big, but like it wasn't just that. There was just something. There were like people were just crowding around you. I think you were just having the most fun there, and
there
like
was
you were
some
just
alcohol
super
involved.
noticeable. Yeah, there was a lot.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but then
I'm a little
the
embarrassed
next
now.
morning. um, yeah, we don't have to go into too much detail of
No,
that. But yeah,
no.
the next morning was nice. Right, a bit hungover, looking for something nice to eat. I was just by myself basically the whole trip, and I sat at a table next to you and Fabian,
Yeah,
Fabian,
Fabian. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, and you just invited me to the table because I was by myself, and that was really nice of you guys. And
Well,
then I think we
you
just
know
spent
what I
the
really
whole
like
morning
about
together, just
traveling?
chatting. Yeah.
When you're at home or you're at work or you're at school, you're always very caught up. You're always focusing on taking the next step, and being concerned with what you did. You're never really there. And you'll probably agree with me when you're traveling, especially when you're traveling by yourself or with just a friend. You're really there to experience, to take in, to meet people, and you go in on people's vibes. And from my perspective, you had a different vibe about you. I mean, you're 22, 21. How old are you?
I was 20 when I was in Peru. I'm 21 now.
Well, so you were 20, but you had a different vibe about you. You had a more mature vibe, and I always find that interesting. I always people that just you catch that vibe. You're like you've got something interesting, and that's also very much a reason why we're talking right now is because, well, you were calm, or I don't know, you were there. You looked me straight in the eyes, and that's something I didn't forget.
I think like when I passed the crossing, it seemed like we are both going through a chosen phase, like we're, we're going through a party phase of
Yeah.
our lives. But I think we both knew, and this is something I just thought about recently, is that it seems like since you moved to Australia, you already had something set. You were going to go through your party phase, and then you were going to follow something else, and you knew that party phase was going to end,
Yeah.
right? I think you decided, but you were going to enjoy it for the time being.
Yeah.
And that's exactly kind of what I did in Peru. I spent my first month just having fun, like
Elaborate on fun. What do you mean by fun?
just enjoying the bars, the women of Peru. Um, Ended up working in a hostel for quite a bit, and just
Really?
enjoying, just yeah, just being really frivolous. But the part of me, like right after the first month, it's like I knew I was going to focus on something else, something more spiritual. I was going to do an ayahuasca ceremony for 2 weeks for my last 2 weeks of my trip in Peru.
Yeah.
So I just dedicated my first month into, having that fun. Yeah, I just understood having that fun is something I could not do forever. And after that 1 month, I knew that I needed to start preparing myself, my body, physically, mentally for the ayahuasca ceremony, because I from what I've heard from other people's experiences, that is something that is really, really draining.
Hey Seth,
I'm not sure if yeah.
can you tell me, especially people listening right now, what ayahuasca is exactly? Just a very general, let's say you're talking to a toddler right now, and you have to explain to them what it is exactly.
Toddler, man.
Yeah, it's a big one.
A toddler. Oh,
Well,
wow.
okay, maybe not a toddler. Let's say 12-year-old kid. Let's say you're talking to a 12-year-old kid, and you tell them, hey, I've been to an ayahuasca retreat, and they're like, ayahuasca, what is that? What would you say?
Well, basically, it's just a really ancient sacred brew made by that's made by tribes in the Amazon, and
Yeah.
it's been going on supposedly thousands of years. I'm not sure how much information they have on that, but they know that these tribes have been doing this for a while, and these
Yeah.
tribes have been doing it for more of a spiritual reason. There seems to be something out there. This drink will take. Well, it seems as it will take the person who's taking it to another dimension, almost. It's not something that's not just a drug. It's not a party drug, right? You can't, if you go to a party with this, you won't have a fucking good time,
No, you
right?
won't. You probably have a bad trip, and you'll nah. I wouldn't
Shit all
recommend
over
it
the
to anyone.
floor, right? But I think it's something that has a lot of mental benefits as well. A lot of like old trauma can come up, and a lot of people these days seem to just repress that trauma. Something could have happened to them when they were a child, and then they completely forget about it. And the ayahuasca could bring up that old memory, and it could be a painful memory, it could be a blissful memory, but it's usually something that's inside of you that has to be brought up
Okay, well,
for
let's
your
backtrack
own
there for a
benefit.
second, because that's really interesting what you just said. Like, if you've experienced trauma, of course, a month after, a year after, you can still feel the after effects. But as time
And you don't
progresses,
really necessarily know what the trauma is. You don't
exactly.
necessarily know what that trauma is, but you feel it, right? And that can last years. And
So
I think that's
just
something
to
why
put it into words,
ayahuasca has become so popular.
you might not even know that you're dealing with something, yet it is affecting your entire life.
Mm, mm. And ayahuasca is not a cure for anything, but it can help you get to a better place faster, where you can find a cure yourself. It will show you what can be done. It won't really do the work for you. It might give you some health benefits and mental benefits,
Yeah.
but it won't solve your problem for you.
Hey, and you were saying you would never do this during a party. So when you were talking about the retreat, can you tell the people listening what that retreat exactly entails? You were saying you were preparing yourself mentally and physically. What does that entail?
Well, the retreat I went on, when I arrived, they made sure that everyone knew that this wasn't just a place to get high. This is a place that was for healing. The place I called out was called Dream Glade, and it was just a really beautiful little place in the middle of the Amazonian rainforest.
The
And
sound of that already.
right,
Wow.
you know, it feels like some Indiana Jones stuff, right? And yeah, these guys I booked about a year in advance actually before going there, and
Wow.
they make sure beforehand that you're not on certain drugs that could have bad synergetic effects with the ayahuasca. They check up on your mental health and physical health before
Oh, I like
even
that.
arriving there. And like I know this, and like I really believe that's the best way to go if you want to partake in one of these ceremonies. Is
Yeah.
you find a place that will check up. Basically, they'll ask all these questions about yourself. You know, there's lots of ayahuasca places in Peru where they will just give you the ayahuasca. They won't ask any questions, and that's when people can die. You know, they they could be taking antidepressants, which is usually deathly, while taking ayahuasca,
Yeah.
and then ayahuasca ends up getting a bad rap because of it.
Yeah. Someone just wants to get high, just wants to have fun, and there's some healing
Yeah, and
findings.
it's not always that. Like they just didn't do enough research, and you know maybe they were looking for uh, something beneficial from it, but they didn't do the good research and find out that what medication they're on currently is not going to go well with the
Yeah.
ayahuasca.
Hey, and I have been told and I've experienced myself that intent is also very important. So you said that
Hmm.
a year prior to you booked the retreat, so you had a very clear intent. I want to do this and I want to see where it brings me. What was your intent going into the retreat? What was your reason?
Mm. Well, I remember when I first heard of ayahuasca, it was a few years ago, and you know, I feel like I already had a calling to go and try and do it, and I didn't really know why. I I just had the idea that this could be beneficial for me, and it wasn't to get high or anything, but it automatically sparked my interest in seeing other people's gains the beneficial gains from it. Um, my once you're there, sometimes the intent is very important, but it's not the most important thing. Sometimes, you know, if you're a 1 week ceremony, your intent could be completely changed
Yeah.
after the second ceremony. You know, I thought I was gonna, you know, bring up certain things that happened in my past during the ceremony, uh, but I ended up bringing something else completely different, and that's that. You know, it's not going to be what you expect. It's never going to be what you expect.
It's a serendipity thing, kind of. If I hear
Mm.
you talk about it, it's like you know the general direction you're going to, but you don't exactly know which steps you're gonna take.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing going into it, you have to understand it could be a scary experience. You know, I was completely, you know, the Jung term shadow work. I was completely. That's basically my reason to do that. I wanted to become conscious of the unconscious, and that's what I got, but it was completely different to what I expected.
Hey, and before we move on, I know that these experiences can be very intimate, and just be aware that if there's anything you don't feel comfortable with sharing, then
Hmm.
feel free to just say, "Hey, sorry, this is my own thing. I would like to keep that to myself."
Yeah, no worries. I'm fairly open book, but then yeah, I'll let you know.
Hey, talk to me about the first few days, your experiences, your mindset, and yeah, like what was it like?
I remember getting picked up from my hostel, and we're in the back of this ute, and we the facilitator Stacy is driving us through the middle of the Amazon while we're sitting in the back of this ute, and it's just one of the
Oh,
coolest
wow, yeah.
experiences. Yeah, and it's just you know seeing all the. It seems like a different planet, the Amazon. You know, you become so accustomed to the trees in your near your home and your own country, but like in the Amazon, it's like it's there's something else.
Because you
Uh,
were in Iquitos at the moment, right?
yes, in Iquitos. So
Iquitos,
that's the capital of the Amazon, right?
yeah,
Wouldn't you say?
it's completely loaded with people and exhaust fumes. So that's quite a
Yeah,
you're having
it's
right there.
yeah, and it's such a big difference going from the city of Iquitos
Yeah,
to to the jungle, which are right next to each other.
yeah.
But it is, oh, pardon me, it's very different. Um, one of the things at the retreat is that you're there with other people. It's not always a personal experience. There's no touching other people there. You have your own bed and you're separated. But there's so much camaraderie at the ceremony because you're all going through something that could be very, very scary. And after the end of each ceremony in the morning, we all talk about our experiences.
Oh,
It's
I like
very
that.
similar to, yeah, yeah,
That's
it's very
great.
similar to like an AA meeting. That's the analogy I can use. But there's a reason why like the AA meetings work, and they basically you share your experience with everyone there, and it's really encouraged to do it. Just to get it off your chest. There's something different. You can ruminate about what happened, what your experience was. You can talk to yourself about it, but when you talk to other people about it, you you'll say something that you don't expect.
Must be very
And
endearing. I can imagine you get very personal stories from people. You get a very different view of someone.
yeah, it's quite beautiful. Like you feel, you could be with these people for a week or just or 2 weeks. It's usually a week minimum, but you become really close with these people, and I think that's really beautiful.
Mm.
Actually, just we're so divorced from other people in
Mm.
these days, and just coming that reunion is beautiful in my opinion.
And you show your weakness to someone because you're your
Mm,
weakest state basically. You're
yeah,
screaming,
and you
crying. I
also
can imagine.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely some highs and there's lows
Mm.
from the experience, but the lows end up usually being long-lasting highs afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, so let's take this step by step. You said well you were brought over to the resort. Um, Tell me about because I know you're not allowed to eat meat. You have to do a lot of meditation. You have to do a bit of fasting, I think. Juice cleansing, maybe. Like what was your
So,
preparation for the first session?
so on the days we had ceremonies, um, so the schedule basically is at this facility was you on a day we have a ceremony, about midday we'll do some pranayama, very similar to the Wim Hof breathing style, um, and then some yoga. And then the rest of the day, you're relaxing. They do have books that you can read, but you end up just being by yourself or talking to your new friends at the facility. And then it's time for the action to start. So about 7 p.m. let's get started. We sit in silence right for about an hour before the ceremony starts, and it's pitch black. There's about I think there's a torch in the middle of the maloka. The maloka is the hut where the ceremony is held. And after about an hour, we go one by one to drink the ayahuasca, and it's the worst tasting thing ever.
Yes, it's not
Yeah,
very nice.
I was wearing a yellow shirt one ceremony, and like I just gagged all up on my yellow shirt, and the stains are still there. It was
It's not nice memory.
and like I don't wear the shirt anymore, but it's kind of it's a bit of memorabilia from that night.
It's kind of cool. I kind of
Yeah,
it's kind of touching. Yeah.
yeah. And, it's what some of the shamans there. They will brew their pipes and other belongings in ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So I think they just there's like they bringing the ayahuasca
Hey, and
to
before I
their
forget,
items.
Tell me about your mind. Tell me about mentally what did you go through? Were you scared? Were you anxious? Were you depressed? Were you how did you feel?
Before or during the experience?
Whatever you want to say. Maybe right before you went to the retreat or an hour before you took the ayahuasca. Tell me about that.
Hmm.
How did you feel?
Well, before, like on the very first ceremony, you don't know what to expect. So you're diving into the unknown. And it is scary, but it's also exhilarating. You know,
Yeah,
you're doing something that you've planned for a long time, and
a
you
year.
don't know what you're going. Yeah, but in this experience, you don't know what you're going to get from it. Um, and so the first night was exciting. Uh, um, Most of the nights I drank ayahuasca, it didn't really affect me, and that's really interesting to me because there would be other people there who would drink just tiny bit of that. You would drink about a shot glass size of the ayahuasca.
Yeah.
One guy there would drink about a quarter of a shot glass, and he had the most intense trips, and he had like the most experiential trips where a lot would happen to him. And there were some nights where I would drink two of the shot glasses, about eight times the amount of what he was drinking, and I didn't feel anything. I didn't trip at all.
Nothing. No
And
visuals. No memories popping up. Nothing.
no visuals. There was some nights which is a little bit, but there was nothing I really wanted. And I was kind of annoyed with that, you know, because like I said, I spent about an hour, about a year prepping for this trip, and I didn't get what I wanted. But a lot of the a lot of the jargon used in that world is that the ayahuasca will give what it wants to give you. You don't get a say what kind of
Yeah, I've often been
experience you
told that
have.
you have the ayahuasca deity, and the deity talks to you and gives you takes and.
Mm. And yeah, but that my first night, just a few pretty colors, and that's it. You know, but that's not what I came there for. Second night and third night, nothing. Then the fourth
Oh,
night,
that
I
must have been
drink.
frustrating. Wow.
It was really frustrating. It was, and like the curanderos, the shamans, and the facilitators were just trying to work out what was wrong. And like so, they were giving me different like juices from like herbs in the Amazon, and saying, "Oh, this will hopefully help with you tonight." And it was really cool just seeing all these different little plants that they use in their healing.
Sounds very
And but
holistic.
then
I like that. I like that they use
yeah,
plants from Amazonian rainforest. Like no pill or anything you can't explain. It's just
yeah, and but like there's like weird plants you've never heard of. Like one plant's like Bob and Sana, and you diet on these plants. Like the shamans, they will go out in the rainforest just by themselves for months on end and just diet with these plants. So they'll eat a bit of fish and some plantains, but then they will eat and drink this plant, and the plant supposedly gives them tools. The plant is more like an ally to them during the ayahuasca ceremony. You know, that's when it gets a bit woohoo for most people.
yeah. The
But a
cognitive
lot of people,
dissonance is yeah.
yeah,
I don't understand this, so I just don't want to hear it.
yeah, and like you know, we come from very logical backgrounds, I'd say.
Yeah.
And when someone tells you that plants will talk to you, you're gonna think this guy is insane,
It's a bit wacko.
right? And what you know, you have every right to think that. But once you experience something like that,
Yeah.
you know, what can you say once you've had that experience?
You know, I always
Um,
find that if I talk to someone about my ayahuasca experience, right there and then, I can tell whether that person has ever had an experience like that or not.
mm,
Their expression in that very second tells me, okay,
mm-hmm,
I'm gonna keep it very short,
mm.
or oh, you've done something like this, so maybe we can have a good chat about this.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what I kind of want to talk to you about. Is do you have you had any problems with something like that? Because there's so many people that don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that these tools are beneficial. You know,
Oh, well, I
uh,
keep it rather silent. I
and
know
it.
who I can talk to about this. And back when I shared
Hmm.
some stuff online,
Yeah,
my family went like, "Ooh, are you sure you want to share that?" But
yeah,
don't know. Hey,
hmm
continue.
yeah.
So you
You
said,
have to be very careful.
yeah, no, no, absolutely, absolutely. It's not widely accepted. In fact, in many countries, it's illegal. You can get fined for it. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hoping we're gonna move towards a greater understanding of, but time will tell.
you know, we
Hey, but
slowly are. We slowly
back to
are.
you. So you just said like you've had 3 days where you took it after seven, did the hour of meditation, and nothing really happened. So you've had all these plans to help you out, so to speak, talk to you, and then what happened?
So my fourth night of the fourth ceremony. So this is basically my second week at the retreat,
Yeah.
and you have 3 ceremonies a week, and I was there for 2 weeks. My fourth ceremony, I I kind of accepted the idea that I wouldn't receive anything, and one of the facilitator ended up. I overheard him. He was talking about that his that little daughter was sick. I think it was just chickenpox, and I was just thinking about that in the ceremony. This is after we've drunk the brew, and I just started praying for his daughter. And I never pray or anything. I was just praying for her wellness. And then that's when the brew finally kicked in.
Wow.
And yeah, and
That's amazing.
yeah, and it wasn't completely intense, but it was that deity you're talking about, the ayahuasca deity, that mother. You experience like a divine feminine from drinking this, and this is just that's a very common experience, which is I think it's really interesting. Like a motherly experience, and she was just talking to me, saying all these nice things like a mother would, and that was that was really interesting.
Wow. So if I heard you correct, at first you were very focused on what do I get out of it, what do I get out of it, and all of a sudden you switch it over to a child and you wish for that child to be better, and all of a sudden you receive.
Mm,
That's cool.
yeah, and like, and like that was something. Yeah, that's something. And then the whole experience was just really, it was just really loving. And I think that's when it comes to that, that's when you get quite a lot of healing as well. When you just feel that sense of love, no matter what, even if you're not high on a drug, that's still a healing
Yeah,
experience.
that's something I want to talk about in a little bit about the prolonging effect. But can you continue about? So you just described your fourth fourth time taking ayahuasca. So you said you had three sessions per week. So yet you're fifth and you're sixth. Did anything happen during those sessions?
So the fifth, nothing. Uh, the sixth, I started coming up in the while I was in the toilet. So, you know, what ayahuasca can do to your body becomes very lethargic, but your mind is very active. While I'm in the toilet, I'm just trying to sort myself out in the toilet. And I'm sitting there. And one thing psychedelics do is that they they make the microcosm become very interesting. You look through something with a different lens.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at the wood grain in the toilet, in the room of the toilet, and that, for some reason that was just fascinating until the facilitator knocked on the door asking if I was alright because I'm sitting
You
there.
must have heard some noises.
Yeah, yeah. And I and and then uh, that's just some of the fun of ayahuasca really.
Yeah.
But then my experience I had was I didn't really get something spiritual out of it in the end. It was more. intellectual, and that wasn't what I was looking for at all.
Mm.
Uh, I basically, what I was told during that experience from the ayahuasca is that I got to learn how to tame my mind, and you know, you can't tame your mind from taking a drug. You have to practice that probably for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest lesson I gained from ayahuasca. There was all these people around me that were going to different realms in their mind, and I was just kind of looking at. I was being shown more of like a philosophical experience. Yeah, and that's not what I wanted at the time. I wanted the one guy next to me. He said he went to the Avatar, the blue guys,
Mm-hmm.
and like they fly on the dragons. And he said he was like in the world of Avatar, flying one of those dragons.
Wow.
And at that point in time, that's what I kind of wanted that. I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
that.
You're sitting there
But I
hearing
guess
him tell you, tell you
that's not important.
you get four
That's not important.
experiences where you had nothing. Oh my God, that must have been frustrating. Ah,
And but that's just, I guess that's not what I needed at the time. It's just what I wanted.
yeah, that's good. Hey, and when you talk about psychedelics, you often talk about the experience you had and how that made you feel. But can you tell me about the prolonging, the after effects? What did it do to you as a person? Did maybe your parents see you change or your friends? Like, can you tell me about that?
My family, I think there was just a lot of personal change from just traveling by myself in South America for 2 months.
Yeah.
I think a lot of personal change came from that. Uh, uh, one thing I did ask for ayahuasca was that I wanted to see what road I was going down. Right, I wanted to know what I was going to do, and I still don't really know what I'm doing, especially with everything that's going on in the world. It's
Hmm.
hard to be, it's hard to follow your ambitions,
Yeah, of
but
course. Yeah.
it did make me want to eventually go back to Peru and work with these plants again. And I think it's something I would like to show these people the beneficial effects of what they can do. And that's just a slight hint of maybe of an ambition,
Yeah, it's
really.
back of your head. You're fiddling with it.
Yeah, and feeling, and that, yeah. Um, but the tame, yeah. So my biggest lesson was taming my mind, and I recently got back from a 10-day silent meditation retreat,
Yeah, that's
and
also something I wanted to ask.
basically
How was that?
that was really that was a lot of I learned a lot from that, gained a lot from it. I think more from ayahuasca actually, but it seemed like at this meditation retreat, that's what you're doing. You're taming your mind, and that's what they talk about a lot in the retreat.
Because
I recommend that. Sorry.
your meditation retreat, like, can you give me tell me what you've done there? Maybe a certain diet
Yes.
you did, exercise, thought patterns.
So the retreat it was a Vipasana retreat,
Yeah.
and it's based off this old Buddhist technique. It's not following a Buddhist religion in its religious ways, but something I kind of learned. Buddhism doesn't really seem more of a religion; it seems more of a lifestyle
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me.
No, I agree.
Um, the schedule of that is for 10 days. You wake up at 4 a.m. and you meditate for about 11 hours with some breaks in between, 11 hours a day.
Wait, hold
So
on.
you end up,
Let me just get that very clear. You said 11 hours meditating per day.
yes, not all at once. We'll have breakfast and lunch. We won't have dinner though. We'd meditate for about an hour or 2 hours, somewhere in between of that. And then we'll take a 5-minute break, go back to meditation, do it again, 5-minute break, and then lunch, and
Oh
do
my
it
God,
again,
that's
and have a bit of
torture
a
to
break.
me. See?
Yeah, but I think that I got a feeling you'll end up loving it. You know,
Oh,
you're
probably.
definitely,
Look, I am
yeah.
fully aware of the benefits of meditation and yoga. I've dated
Mm.
a yoga instructor for some time, but it's
Nice.
I
Yeah,
100% believe it. Let me just
yeah.
stick with that. Okay, continue. So
But it's that's the thing. Like, it sounds really hard to do, and it is. But you're one of those guys who wants to do the hard thing. I can
yeah,
tell,
yeah.
and I think, and that's what you're doing. And honestly, it was it the 10-day retreat was a psychedelic experience, even though you're not ingesting any chemicals.
No, it's you
It
turn more internal. You start listening to your internal
mm,
environment.
it felt really very similar to how you would in like the effects of taking one of these substances. Like, it felt really similar. I'm not
I
sure if
like
you've
that
had any.
perspective. I like what you just said. So it's not
Mm,
necessarily about what you take, but it's where you
mm,
go. You can take
yeah, yeah.
or see.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Um, but I just feel like for the 10 days, your sense of self is slowly diminishing because you're becoming more just present in the moment. The techniques they teach you, it's not they don't teach you many techniques. It's basically just a few, and that's just to become aware of your sensations. And the more you do that, the more present to the moment you will become.
Hey, and what has this done to you in your life? Can you tell me about your thought patterns? Are you happier? Are you calmer? Um, if you
Mm.
maybe want to talk about how about your sex life? How about the connection with your parents? What has it done to you?
Well, it's still in practice. I think it's something that what you learn at the meditation retreat is something that needs to keep in practice. But I don't feel so attached to my feelings, and that sounds bad. But I'm more aware of my feelings, but I don't identify with them as much. And I think that's a very, very special tool to have. You know, I can still get angry and or upset, and but then I just accept it and I let it be, and you just understand that it's a feeling that won't be there forever, ever. All sensations, they're all impermanent. Sorry, my camera just
Ah,
got
that's
out.
okay. That's okay.
You know, all these things are impermanent, no matter if it's good or bad. And I think that's really what they want to teach you at these retreats.
Okay,
But one,
I really like what you just said. You said a couple of words in a sentence that really struck with me, something I firmly believe myself. Can you continue about emotions just being a sensation, and can you continue on that subject?
mm, well, from the retreat with these techniques, that you stop attaching yourself to your thought patterns. That can it can become more of a defogging effect, right? You see what is real and what isn't. And you know, we're so attached to what we think we like, and
Your own
you know,
truth.
yeah, and every day you just start to see what things really are, slowly and slowly, and then
So the way I hear you say, you sort of take a back seat. It's like, okay, I'm experiencing this sensation right now. This might have been evoked by a person or by a thought pattern or maybe even muscle tension, doesn't really matter. And you're like,
mm,
okay, I'm just gonna leave it for what it is. I'm just gonna let it do its thing and let it go.
mm. And and it's not even necessarily letting it go. It's just becoming aware. And you become closer to your awareness than you do to yourself.
It's interesting.
Mm.
You know,
Uh,
I've had a very profound experience with ayahuasca myself. I don't want to go into it too deep because, well,
mm,
we're talking about your experience, and I feel like you have more experience with spirituality than I do, and I would like for people to listening to learn from your experience. But
Yeah.
the reason why I'm gonna give a short summary is because mine is exactly the opposite of what you experienced.
Let me hear it.
Well, so just like you, Peru was a place for me to, I wouldn't say find myself, but to get new directive.
Hmm.
And I hadn't really thought of ayahuasca. I knew it was a possibility, but I was like, I'll just see where we go. And there was this moment where something inside of me said, you have to go to Quitos. I don't know
Mm.
why. It's just I had to go to Quitos. And when I was in Iquitos, I learned, okay, this is the place for ayahuasca. So it was just like a natural step. And well, we went on a 4-day trip, and we were brought over to our camp, Fabian and I.
Hmm.
And I could tell my mind was getting ready for something. We were in this wooden boat, and as we got close to camp, we heard some rustling near the edge of the river. And well, we thought there's probably going to be some animals. We can take some pictures to send back home. There
Yeah.
were, and as we were taking pictures of them, like a couple of monkeys started climbing me.
Really? Like on you?
Yeah, there was an anteater climbing on me as well, and I just started tearing up. I just felt this connection with the Amazonian rainforest and all the life
Mm.
around me, and that was sort of the sign that you're ready. You're ready for a profound experience. It doesn't matter what's going to happen, you'll take it.
Wow.
Well, ours wasn't as extreme as yours. I mean, we're in a small hut, and it wasn't a retreat by any means. They didn't check on whether we took medicine or not, so we could have died. Could have happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the first or the second day we did a little bit of fasting. The shaman took us into the rainforest at about 8 p.m. and it started getting dark. And well, he did his ritual. And well, Fabian and I and two other guys, also Dutch, happen to be Dutch, were there in the hut. And the first hour, nothing happened. So
Mm.
I got frustrated, and the shaman gave us a little bit more. And all of a sudden, like, wow, I had these visions. I got attacked by a big red demon with black horns.
Oh. Yeah.
And instead of being scared, I just jumped on his head and tried to split his skull apart.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I wanted to kill it, like, because it was a threat and it had to die.
I've never heard an experience like that from ayahuasca. Like I usually hear like a non-reactive experience. No one really tries to touch.
No, it gets
What they
worse.
just they was that joking? Was that like a sign of resistance or something? Or
No, I don't know. I don't know. When it happened, I just let it slide. And now that I'm here in quarantine in Victoria, I've done a lot of thinking. I've had some new insights, but it gets worse. Or, well, worse depends on how you see it. Because next there was this big black wolf. It was really big, like the size of an elephant, and it had these red eerie eyes, and wanted to bite me. And the first thing I did, I just reached my hand down his throat and I pulled out his spine, and he just fell dead to the floor.
yeah.
And next, I had all these spiders and snakes and crawlers walk over me, and it didn't seem to faze me. I didn't care. It was like they were butterflies. And I had these dark eyes of phantoms looking at me out of the dark, trying to scare me. I looked straight back at them, and I felt this shield of fire around me, like nothing could touch me. So see what I'm talking about. It's the exact opposite. It's the
Mm. There's like the usually the typical experience is the feminine experience from
yeah.
ayahuasca, and that's not that. That's not the feminine experience.
Well, you know how you just said like you don't really get to decide where you go, and
Mm.
You're
Mm.
given something, and I've always downplayed myself, saying, "Oh, you're not capable of doing this and that." And ever since
Yes,
I
yes.
realized that there is a monster inside of me, and that's okay. You, I'm able to control it. I can let it out during training. I can let it out if a loved one is in danger, if I need to. So yeah,
You just beat the fuck out of it.
yeah. No, but it's
Yeah,
what you said. It connects. It clicks. It's exact same. It's. I had no intentions
that's
going in.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Have you heard of Wachuma, San Pedro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a that's did have an experience of that while I was in Peru as well, and I think
Really.
that's yeah. I did it about 2 weeks before my ayahuasca ceremony. It was completely unexpected. I did not plan it to happen. I was training jiu-jitsu up in the mountains in Cusco, and I met
Oh, hold on.
yeah.
Let's just go back there for a second. That's cool.
Yeah. So like, I was training. It was the gym of an ex-UFC fighter, Tony D'Souza. I think his brother was the right who ran it, I believe. And I coincidentally met a Wim Hof instructor over there. Um,
Yeah, I remember because you talked with Fabian and I about the Wim Hof breathing. We did some sessions with you. Yeah, I remember that.
did we? Are you sure?
Yeah. Where was Fabian? I don't know. At least recall us sitting on the beach in an oasis and doing some breathing in the morning.
Might have been your other friend. I don't think I was there for that. But
Really?
yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
yeah,
continue with the
maybe.
story.
And this is something like jiu-jitsu just has taken me down to many different paths. And I'm meeting this Wim Hof instructor. He at the jiu-jitsu gym. He was also doing Wim Hof sessions at the gym, and I was just chatting along with him. And it turns out he's also an apprentice Wachuma shaman. So he's practicing
Wow.
this. And one day he just
I
invited
would.
me.
Some would call it coincidence. I wouldn't call that coincidence at all. I think that was meant to be. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I've got one more coincidence I can share after the story. And he invited me up to a ceremony, and so I meet him in in Pisac, which is like 45 minutes out of Cusco,
Yeah.
about 6 in the morning the
Yeah.
next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking beautiful. And I was a bit reluctant at first to go to the ceremony because I I did book a retreat for the ayahuasca, and retreat just seemed the safest way to go,
Yeah,
because they
exactly.
ask for
It
all your
seems like, oh,
details.
let's just do this on a fun Friday night and let's get high.
Mm. Yeah, and this guy, he there was something about him. I kind of look up to him as a bit of a mentor now in hindsight, and I could just trust him. And he
The vibe.
brought me up to the yeah. I brought him. He brought me up to Pisac. We started at this low mountain, a bit out of Pisac. We drank the brew up in the mountains, and for about I don't know how long. I don't know how long we were hiking for, but we were hiking while tripping for about 8 hours. Like so, in the
Jeez,
Peruvian
eight
culture,
hours.
and something like that. I don't know. We did have to take breaks. It was beautiful, but in the Peruvian culture, like the ancient culture, the mountains there are sacred to them. They believe that there's something godly about their mountains, and so we were drinking lachuma, which is very similar. I don't like saying this, but it's like very similar to MDMA. How it's very serotonergic. You feel very in
You
love.
feel bliss.
It's like, but it's not like an ignorant bliss. It's more of an awareness of bliss. It's like MDMA just seems it feels very similar to it, but it's completely different. You know,
Yeah, I personally
MDMA.
I don't like synthetic drugs because
Mhm.
I always feel like plants were there for a reason. They make these compounds for a reason to maybe assist us, whereas synthetic drugs, you're kind of taking away the holistic experience. So yeah, no, I
Yeah,
makes sense.
And like, so the only comparison I'll make to Wachuma is that MDA is the loving feeling you get from MDMA, but the MDMA, the Wachuma will show you like why you love it. And MDMA, you love everyone at the nightclub for no fucking reason, right?
Yeah, I know that. I've had a very awkward first experience with MDMA when I was
Oh,
younger.
really?
No, oh, let's.
I'd love to hear that. Love to
Uh,
hear that.
okay,
You
very,
can tell
very
you,
short, very short.
yeah.
It was in Berlin. It was my first time traveling by myself. I was anxious as I didn't know what to expect, and I was in this crazy party hostel. And after a couple of days, I met up with still a very good friend of mine, and well, we did a bit of a talking. And we exercised together. He was a bodybuilder at the time, like a big guy. And he said, like, "Hey, Will, I've got something for you." Okay, what is it? And he showed me these crystals,
Mm.
and we took some. And I took way too much because I was an ignorant young idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I took on my phone, which you should never ever do.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
back then I've texted about 30, 40 women saying that I was yes. So that was young. I
That's
wouldn't
something
do
you can
MMA
only
again
that
and
you
never
can
with
look
a
back and
condom.
laugh at it. I hope.
Well, yes, but at the time it
It
wasn't.
was It would be embarrassing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. You have to explain to the girls why you texted them, which is even worse.
That's great. Thank you for sharing.
No, you're welcome.
Um,
No problem.
I'll go back to this mountain story. Kind of diverged
Yeah,
a
yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Uh, so it was a small group. About there was only three other. Uh, just use the word tourists. They weren't really tourists, but they were partaking in the ceremony. And then there was the apprentice shaman and the shaman, and they'll just guide us through these mountains, and we'll just follow them, and then they'll take us to these places with gorgeous scenery. And with watching, I wasn't really feeling it during the hike, but once the ceremony finished, we all went to Pisac in the town, and we just decided to get dinner, and that's when it started to come up after 8 hours after ingesting it. Really weird.
What?
That's weird. My metabolism must be very
But
different.
8 hours, like
I
if
don't
you
know.
talk about two, that would be surprising still. But eight?
There was probably some effect, and I probably just didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, because you were caught up with the scenery and talking, and so
Yeah,
good experience overall.
but everyone around me, and like everyone around me was like they were quite listening, but I was like, yeah, this is beautiful. But I felt fairly sober, but there might
You
have been
were
some
very
more
resistant
unconscious
against
effects.
psychedelics, apparently.
It's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Even with some other substances, it's the same thing. But we decided to get dinner, and that's when it started to come up. And it uh, Wachuma or San Pedro, whatever you want to call it, it's it's not hallucinogenic. It's still psychedelic. But it's not. You won't. From my experience and what I've heard from other people's experience, is that you don't really see you don't see much change in your optical vision. Um, and we're just having dinner, and I'm starting coming up. I'm feeling love for everyone around me, what I'm eating. I was very appreciative. MDMA doesn't make you feel appreciated, but the Wachuma does. And what appreciating things is very different to loving things. They're both very amazing to actually feel that.
That's cool. So
Mm,
basically, you're experiencing like your sensations are the same. With the former,
mm,
you don't make the connection as to why it is happening, and with the latter, you are like, I'm happy because I get to have this and that. So you know where it's coming from. That's
mm.
interesting.
Yeah, and
There's a
but you kind of
rabbit hole there.
yeah, and these are just thoughts you have after the experience
Yeah.
as well. You can only articulate an experience like that to so much extent, but you can't. No matter how articulate you are, you can never recreate that experience.
No, yeah, of course,
But
especially not to someone who's
you can
never
get close.
experienced it.
Yeah, you can get close, but yeah. And like, so Pisac is this town that's surrounded by mountains. It's very, very, it's almost stuck in between these mountains. And as we're leaving the restaurant, it's about 8 p.m. It's dark. One of the mountains is completely on fire. I'm not sure if they were just like burns to get rid of some trees that weren't there, that aren't necessary. But just seeing seeing this huge mountain completely enveloped in fire was
Wow.
amazing during that Wachuma experience. And funnily enough, that mountain had the road back to Cusco where I was staying. It was about 45 minutes away. So no taxis wanted to go through the flaming mountain
I can imagine
at all.
that.
Yeah. So I'd pay some Peruvian citizen to go through to take me through the fires of the mountain. And that was my
It's a real experience. That's
experience of Peru.
good combination.
Yeah, yeah, and like Wachuma is like that is, we're talking about like the femininity of ayahuasca. Wachuma seems to have more of a masculine effect to it. You're not really, it's still an internal experience, but you seem more external. It seems more of an external experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
I
like the
can't
fact
really
that you
articulate
use the
it.
word
It's annoying,
feminine and
noise,
masculine,
but
because often when I try to explain
hmm,
principles and theories, I tend to use the same wording
hmm.
that something or an action is
Uh,
masculine or feminine.
mm. And I don't necessarily mean it in gender ways, but
No, no, exact. No, no, yeah,
it
no.
seems like the
I know what you mean.
ayahuasca it will express the archetypal feminine, and the wachuma will show you the archetypal masculine.
Yeah,
And
and more like
I think
the
that's something
feeling
that's really
part
special to
and the
see,
understanding
especially
part.
these days.
So, sorry, what did you say? I interrupted.
Mm. Oh, I think that's just something that's very special to see these days. We kind of not to go into gender roles or anything. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. But it's there are these laws of the universe of opposites, and these plants seem to show you them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm dating a woman. She has 3 kids, so she's
Yeah, man, I'm really happy for you, man. You look like you're having an awesome time in Australia.
it's surreal. No, it's a surreal time. I'm doing a lot of learning here, but you know,
Man, that's awesome. I'm really happy for
thanks, Ed. I like that. No, but
you.
Seth, I see power in her. I see real feminine power as a
Mm.
mother and as a warrior. She fights and
Yeah, she seems
ah,
like really badass. I was listening to
oh,
your last podcast.
she's full on
Yeah.
in a good way. I've sort of learned to be subordinate to her when it needs to. Like I'll listen to her and not just come up with my own stuff all the time. And sometimes she listens to me, and that's why I find it interesting that you use these words. And we always talk about the man being better, the woman being better. I think that's inaccurate.
Have you read the yeah, no, it is inaccurate. Have you read that book, The Way of the Superior Man?
No, it sounds like a book I would
I
like.
really recommend it. It's the author really talks about the difference of masculine and femininity, and not necessarily gender wise. You could have a gay couple and one could be more masculine energy wise and the other could be more feminine
Yeah,
energy wise. And I think that's something like some people might get offended from what we're saying. It's weird to even say that, but it seems like just fundamental truths
Yeah, no, I
that there's
agree. No,
these
and
two
you know what?
different forces.
If someone listens right now and hears us talk and takes offense to that, and I don't even mind. I mean, I can understand that this sounds offensive.
Hmm.
Same as if you and I were to talk to someone about their experience in Peru, they'd be like, "Oh, yes, interesting, awesome," but it doesn't really come through. So if someone
Mm.
were to take offense to this, I'm sorry, and there was no reason for me to try and piss you off. Hey, but
It's
can you,
just it's using language in a completely different way.
yeah. Hey, can you send me a link for the book after we're done?
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to, love to.
Hey, and I'd like to keep these podcasts about an hour because at some point your uh,
Yeah.
ability to listen and comprehend, of course, lessons. So can you
Hmm.
finalize this podcast by just giving me a very general um, concept of what you got out of this experience? What did it bring you as a person? Take your time. You don't have to answer straight
Be
away.
present.
Just take your time.
Be present. Just that. That's be like it's that's the fundamental of all religion. Really, be present to the moment. Be, that's all.
That's strong.
That's the best advice I could give anyone.
That's
It
really
comes from
simple.
yeah, you know, learning. When I was in Peru, I was also reading uh, Eckhart Tolle, and just that book, The Power of Now. That I was actually reading that during my ayahuasca retreat, and that's what blew me away. That just being present to the moment.
Yeah, I like that. That's strong, solid, something you can easily remember. That's good.
Mm. And
Hey,
it's like I think yeah, I think it's the only answer to anything. Be present.
here.
Don't hold grudges. Love and forgive.
Hey, before I wanna,
I think that's the most important. Hmm. Yeah,
I'm gonna thank you for your time and you sharing your
yeah,
experience with us. Can you tell people how to find you on Facebook or Instagram or maybe something you're working on?
yeah. Just on Instagram, I'm Seth Gilmore. Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me.
Okay. Okay, Seth. I would like to thank you a lot for your sharing your experience with us and be present. That's a strong message.
No, thanks for having me. It's always good to talk to people during these times.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know.
Learn something from one another.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you everybody for listening. And this was
100%.
Willem.
I'm very